The proclamation of martial law is not a military takeover. I, as your duly elected president of the Republic, use this power, which may be implemented by the military authorities, but still is a power embodied in the Constitution to protect the Republic of the Philippines and our democracy.
There's this man's photo on the wall of my father's office at home. You know, where father brings his work. Where he doesn't look strange, still wearing his green uniform and colored breastplates. Where to prove that he works hard. He also brought a photo of his boss, whom he calls Apo. So Apo could, hang around on the wall behind him and look over his shoulders to make sure he's nappy and all. Father snapped at me once, caught me sneaking around his office at home, looking at the stuff on his wall, handguns, plaques, a sword, medals, a rifle. Told me that was no place for a boy, only men, when he didn't really have to tell me. Because that photo of Apo on the wall was already looking at me around. His eyes following me like he was that scary Jesus in the hallway, saying, "I know what you are doing."
I'm Ferdinand a former student of Papua. When I was 21, I attended the upon forum held at Common Classroom Mission number 3. In that event, as the president of Kabataang Barangay, I questioned Marcos credibility. Also, I sought the first daughter about the human rights of her father. For that, I was dragged out of the area by killing security personnel. Then, I was tortured, thrown out the building window. On September 2, 1987, the body was found in the street Manila, covered in red clay. Bj Patino or Ferdinand Julian earned a master's degree literature graduate of the Ateneo de Manila University. Also, in English department of the same school, he works a faculty member. Additionally, Patino is a photojournalist in the Mindanao News and Information Cooperative Center. Currently, he pursuing master degree of anthropology. His works include Late Morning, Ninth Day, and lastly, Up on the Wall. The poem Up on the Wall presents the perspective of the child. In recounts the tale martial law, the dread of Filipinos Ferdinand Marcos during this time.
I am Bj Fernandez, a former social worker in the press area of Tondo and Cavite. During martial law, I became a clandestine youth organizer in Isabela. I was arrested in 1980 for rebellion, insurrection, and subversion. For that, I spent 2 years in prison. When I was released, I returned to my political commitment in the underground. And that was until I was killed by the constabulary soldiers in Benguet. After that, they decapitated and displayed my head on a pole for the public to see. Now that you've known me, I'll discuss the theme to give you a picture of a grim past. Apo on the Wall illuminates the tragic and dramatic experiences of Filipinos throughout the reign of Ferdinand Marcos. The poem emphasizes the reality of life during martial law era, and this point of view was revealed by the persona through his narration. Therefore, the theme of Apo on the Wall is a reflection of the past during Marcos' regime. Moreover, to aid a more profound understanding of the poem, I will present the characters. The persona in the poem is a child. His perspective symbolizes the Filipinos during the martial law. Next is the child's father, a military official. He signifies the government. As so, the relationship between the father and the son signifies the citizens and the government, and how distant it is. Lastly, Apo is the late President Ferdinand Marcos. To prove, Apo is an Ilocano term for sir or master. Since Marcos was born in Ilocos Norte, Ilocanos take pride in calling him Apo. Furthermore, the relationship between him and the father connotes a loyal servant and a tyrant. To elaborate on the theme, I'll discuss the meaning of the poem. In lines 1 to 10, the child describes his father wearing a training uniform with the colored breastplates. It is a uniform of a military official. Additionally, he mentioned his father's boss picture hanging on the wall, whom he calls Apo. And this pertains to the situation during martial law, wherein it is an SOP to hang a portrait of the president in the government offices. Accordingly, this further proves that Apo is Ferdinand Marcos, and the child's father works for him. In lines 11 to 12, the persona shows the perfect perspective of his father's loyalty, respect, and fear towards the president, even if he is not around. On the other hand, in lines 13 to 14, his father shows how rigorous he is to his own son. Also, in lines 12 to 13, the words snappy and snap were used. Though these words may sound pretty similar, they are actually different. As so, it is crucial to understand the difference between these words. The word snappy refers to a moving quickly under a mark of a vigor. In this case, the vigor is out, while snap is a term that indicates uttering sharply or irritably. These terms add to the understanding of the difference between the relationship of the father to his child and the child's father to his boss out. Also, it supports what I mentioned a while ago about the characters' connection with one another. Additionally, in lines 15 to 18, the occurrence of martial law was described. The phrase handguns, plague, sword, medals, and rifles symbolizes how serious martial law was. Moreover, the line "no place for a boy, only men" represents the child's innocence and juvenile towards what is truly happening. The father was trying to teach his child to be obedient and disciplined during the dangerous situation. Also, it serves as a warning to the child on how severe it can get when he doesn't follow. And this talks about the abuse of power during Marcos' era. Though in lines 18 to 19, the child contradicts his father, for he was fully aware of what was happening. Furthermore, in lines 20 to 24, depict a clear message of how powerful Marcos was back then. As a proof in the poem, he was compared to Jesus. It implies that he is indeed powerful and that he knows everything. But in contrast to Jesus, he was described as scary. As so, this suggests how afraid Filipinos are due to his power and authority through dictatorship. In addition, the last line intensifies the child's portrayal of fear, and this fear imposed a self-prison on citizens that kept them from having their rights, freedom, and justice. In conclusion, the poem portrays the horror of martial law through the child. For his every move, fear strikes in his innocent eyes, and even a lifeless picture can send chills down to his spine. In comparison to how horrendous it is to live during the martial law, and how a memory can trigger 1,000 of emotions to its victims.
I am Lilioso Hilao, a former student activist from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. In 1973, at the age of 21, I was arrested and tortured to death. Thus, I became the first killed detainee during martial law. Then let us proceed to the tone. First is scared. That photo upon the wall was already looking at me around, his eyes following me like he was that scary Jesus in the hallway. This line shows how the narrator was scared of the apo on the wall. Second is curious. Father snapped at me once, caught me, sneaking around this office at home, looking at the stuff on this wall. Handguns told me that there was no place for a boy. His curiosity was all in. The narrator thought it means so he doesn't roam around and touch his father's things that may injure him. But by analyzing that statement, it probably means more than that, isn't it? At his young age, he can't fully understand what his father was really trying to say. He can only interpret them literally. Then lastly, is powerful. He was that scared just in the hallway, saying, I know what you are doing. This is the line that shows how powerful Apo is. Ferdinand Marcos is like Jesus, who knows everything we do because of his power. Let us proceed to the literary devices. That photo of Apo on the wall was already looking at me around, his eyes following me like he was that scared Jesus in the hallway, saying, I know what you're doing. In these lines, two figures of speech were displayed. First is personification. It is used to give the photo the ability to act like a human. As so, phrases like looking at me around, his eyes following me, saying I know what you're doing, embodies the actions of an individual. In addition, the lines, his eyes following me, like he was that scared Jesus in the hallway, the persona compared Apo to Jesus and used the word like. Therefore, the figure of speech used is a metaphor. A metaphor is applied to relate two things that aren't alike, yet have something in common. In this case, Apo is compared with Jesus, for they both hold power. Moreover, the literary device, imagery, was evident also in the poem. It evokes the reader's sensory experience and creates a picture with words. As an example, the persona made us visualize his father's office and uniform. And this can be seen through these lines. There's this man photo on the wall of my father's office at home, still wearing his green uniform and colored breastplates, and shaking around his office at home, looking at the stuff on his wall. Handguns, plaques, a sword, metals, and a rifle. For the impact, we believe that upon the wall served as a mirror of the past and an eye-opener for today's generation. The poem enlightens us about the past untold stories. Also, this refers to Filipinos who were terrified of the power and authority of Marcos' dictatorship. Hence, it all comes down to how power influence and public fear ruled at that time. Furthermore, this poem served as a living testimony for Filipinos who came across this time, revealing a dark past during the Marcos regime. Additionally, wherein many hidden untold stories and unheard voices of testimonies have never been given a chance to be listened and obtain justice. For that, it made us aware of the fear, grief, and muffled lamentations of the Filipinos under martial law.
I am Soledad Salvador. I work as a parish worker in Ilocos Norte. I grew up poor and experienced firsthand of the struggles in landlessness and militarization. In the year 1983, I joined the guerrilla network. In this network, I was tasked to pass messages to different villages, and I was killed by a military in a raid in Benguet. I was decapitated. My head was displayed in a seashell, and my body was never found at all. The truth is, we cannot change whatever happened in the past. The poem made us realize the importance of looking in the past and applying it in our everyday lives. The poem let us view two sides of a persona during the martial law, the one who follows it and the one who's scared of it. In our generation today, there are many people that are freely living. Unlike before, there are people living in pure dictatorship, leaving a huge scar in their hearts and minds.
I am Maria Lorena Barros, a poet and a writer. I studied anthropology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. The heightened political climate in 1969 led me to become more involved in student activism. In April 1970, I became the co-founder of Makibaka, Malayang Kilusan ng Bagong Kababayan or Free Movement of New Women. My experiences as a student activist allowed me to recognize the role and the struggles of women in the society and the fight for the liberation of the Filipino people. In September 1972, when martial law was declared, I was one of the student activists charged with subversion. Then, I left Makibaka, went into hiding in the countryside where I joined the New People's Army, got married, and had a son. I was arrested in November 1973 but escaped. I fought until my last breath and never surrendered.
I am Boyet Mijares, 16 years old. My father, Primitivo Mijares, was the former chief propagandist of the Marcos administration. He was tasked by Ferdinand Marcos to spread fake news to justify the use of martial law. My father later exposed this conspiracy and wrote The Conjugal Dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Months after it was published, my father vanished. A year later, I received a phone call saying that my father was still alive. I was so excited. I can finally meet my father. But days later, my body was found dumped outside the city of Manila. My eyeballs are protruding. My chest have multiple stab wounds. My head and hands were bashed. My feet and genitals were mangled. I deserve justice. We all deserve justice.